Well, today I'm here in Oberstaufen. The mountain here is called Huendle, which means something like small dock or so. Ski season already is over, but today they opened the cable car because the Paragliding Academy, a local paragliding school here, has an event. So here you can see the landing of the Huendle in Oberstaufen. People come in directly at the end of the slope. Be a little bit careful with the electric cables up there. Otherwise, your field is not too big, but I think landing is possible not only in this area, landing is also possible in the other area. Let's have a look at the landing opportunities in detail. First of all, we have the landing next to the parking lot at the bottom station of the cable car. It's quite a big field which is bordered by an electric line. Besides that, there's a second landing opportunity on an even bigger field right next to it. Look at all these stalls from all these paragliding suppliers and all this paragliding equipment. Well, I am here for the first time and I will use my own equipment to test this mountain. On the left hand side we can already see the Huendle cable car station. Here I am in the cable car. It's called the Huendlebahn. Well, the height difference between the takeoff and the landing is only about 300 meters. We start on an altitude of 1100 meters. This means the mountain is suitable for beginners, for those who are re-entering the sport, and for those who just want to train launching and landing. Even though it's only a small mountain, it can be quite fun. Let's have a look at the map with the takeoffs before we reach them with the cable car. So if we look at the takeoffs, then we have one takeoff at the top station of the cable car. To the right, this is the main takeoff. You can use it in summer and in winter, and it's to the north-northwest. There's a second takeoff directly on the skiing slope, which you can only use in summer. It's also to the north-northwest. So when I was there, in the morning there was a northern wind, so we used these takeoffs, and then the wind went more and more to the east. So that's the third takeoff here, where you can launch to the east or east-northeast. And finally, we have the western takeoff at the top of the Huendle mountain. This is the launching place number 2, as we have seen it on my map. It's toward the northwest, and we see the windsock is pointing to the east. Nevertheless, today's festival, people need to test the gear, and so they still are starting to the north. Another view to the takeoff number 2, which is, as I already said, to the north-northwest. It is really a broad skiing slope and a very easy place to start. In winter it might be only here for skiers, so then you have to use the takeoff number 1, which is over there on the other side of the cable car. The only thing which might be a little bit a problem is that there's cables on both sides of the launching. So I would not recommend launching in these conditions where we have the east wind at the moment here. So I would do it like this guy who is taking off from the eastern launching side. So here we are approaching at a launching spot where you can start to the east. You have just seen me taking off here in the clip before. It was a quite broad takeoff and it was quite easy in these wind conditions to start here. So let's have a closer look at this takeoff. Here we look towards the direction of northeast. It's quite a broad field, and back here you are able to prepare your glider, and in this direction it is almost east, so a big takeoff where 3 or 4 gliders can prepare themselves at the same time. Down there you can see the landing. So the landing are 2 big fields. We already seen them on the map, and the only obstacle which I identified is the road on the other side and the electric cables on this side. Another view to the landing field. Let's have a look at the landing in detail. So if the wind is from the west, or how we call it valley wind, you fly in this direction towards the east, then you cross, and then finally you land to the west if you use the second landing spot. If you use the first landing spot, then you also go towards the east, cross, and then fly into the west. So what happens if we have wind from the mountain or wind from the east? It's just the other way around. First go to the west, then cross, and then finally get down on the eastern side. And the same thing in the landing number 1, only in the opposite direction. Let's have a look at my landing now in 2 times the speed. So here we are at the landing now. People coming in from this side. I think there's no rule how to come in here, if I'm right. So some of these guys are doing ground handling while the others are preparing for landing. Well, we have this east wind, so it's quite easy to land against the wind. It's a huge field. Nothing really can happen here. Easy landing spot. There's 2 things to be careful about. First of all, if you are launching to the east, and probably you do this, if there's a lot of east wind, don't soar around here. Otherwise, the wind might push you down into the trees. Better use the slope down here. And the second one, if you launch to the west, from the west takeoff, then you must be sure that you are able to get around all this ridge. If you don't have any lift and if you have a poor glider, you might not make it and you might have to go down here. So this is a place where you have to be quite careful about. I hope you liked the video.